3 years into Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the strategic landscape remains exceptionally volatile. This conflict, the most significant in Europe since World War II, has profound implications. The stability of Ukraine's territorial integrity, political sovereignty, and economic sustainability is at risk, influencing European defense postures and shaping the operational strategies employed by Russia. This uncertainty is a critical factor in the regional security calculus. In light of the ongoing crisis, the European Union is actively securing global support to reinforce Ukraine's defensive capabilities. However, military assistance must be part of a comprehensive strategic approach. EU member states, including the United Kingdom, are enhancing the coordination of military aid through a unified operational framework. This strategy encompasses expedited diplomatic engagement with the United States and the implementation of targeted economic sanctions aimed at compelling Russia to reassess its military objectives and operations. Recently, the European Union has established a coalition of 20 nations aimed at enhancing support for Ukraine's defense efforts. This development followed an extraordinary session of the European Council focused on Ukraine and defense strategies. Key figures, including Antonio Costa, Ursula von der Leyen, and Chief Foreign Affairs Representative Kaja Kallas, engaged in discussions with leaders from the United Kingdom, Turkey, Canada, Norway, and Iceland. The inclusion of these non-EU nations is vital for developing a comprehensive defense strategy that addresses the multifaceted challenges posed by the conflict. As we approach the 3-year milestone of the invasion, prospects for a resolution to the conflict remain uncertain. Current evaluations from European and NATO leaders underscore the necessity of Turkey's active involvement in any viable peace negotiations. This emphasizes Turkey's significant role within NATO and its broader implications for European defense dynamics, particularly in terms of coalition building and strategic alignment. The nations participating in this coalition have been strategically selected, with Turkey's role being particularly critical. Turkey's importance is underscored within the NATO framework, yet the larger context of European defense requirements must also be considered. Turkey's non-EU status introduces complexities to the existing collective security arrangements and influences defense strategy formulation among coalition partners. An analysis of Turkey's strategic significance reveals that its geographic location and military capabilities are essential to Europe's defense needs. The integration of Turkey's military assets with NATO's collective defense initiatives is crucial for shaping the operational landscape in countering Russian aggression. This collaboration will determine the effectiveness of defensive operations in the region. Analyzing the strategic implications of the coalition supporting Ukraine reveals significant military dynamics that could alter the course of the conflict with Russia. The coalition's formation is crucial in countering Russian efforts to undermine the sovereignty of nations east of the Oder-Neisse line, with Ukraine's territorial integrity being a primary target. Understanding this context is vital for assessing future military engagements and defensive postures. The European Union, EU, has recognized the aggressive posture of Russia and is actively consolidating support for Ukraine through a coalition involving 20 nations, which is backed by considerable financial commitments. This includes substantial funding from the United Kingdom and the EU, alongside Norway's establishment of a €1.7 trillion sovereign wealth fund designed to enhance Ukraine's operational flexibility and sustain military efforts. Turkey's strategic influence has become increasingly significant throughout the conflict, placing it at the forefront of European defense initiatives, both diplomatically and militarily. The potential for Russia to challenge NATO's Article 5 through further territorial incursions presents concerning scenarios for neighboring countries, such as the Baltic states, Moldova, and Romania. The EU's unified stance reflects the imperative to project unwavering support for Ukraine to deter Russian overreach. However, reliance on EU support alone may not suffice to effectively deter Russian advances. Turkey's military presence in the Black Sea is a critical factor in this strategic equation. Ankara's role in mediating essential issues, such as the operation of Ukraine's grain corridor and facilitating prisoner exchanges, underscores its military capabilities. Turkey maintains one of NATO's largest armed forces, featuring the largest land force in Europe, which is pivotal in the current conflict dynamics. Officials from Turkey's foreign ministry emphasize their strategic position in controlling the Black Sea, where adherence to the Montreux Convention may influence conflict dynamics. Turkey's control over vital maritime routes significantly affects ammunition supply lines, logistics, and international trade, granting it a tactical advantage. This leverage has been recognized by EU leaders, evident in high-level meetings involving figures such as Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. During the extraordinary European Council in Brussels, Erdogan articulated Turkey's commitment to Ukraine, alongside leaders from the UK, Canada, Norway, and Iceland. Turkey's dual role as a NATO member and a regional power establishes it as a crucial participant in discussions on military and strategic cooperation regarding the ongoing conflict. The significance of Turkey extends beyond its geographical location. Its military infrastructure and diplomatic influence are vital in shaping the support framework for Ukraine. The defense sector is undergoing a notable transformation, particularly in the fields of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, armored systems, and electronic warfare technologies. The operational efficacy of the Bayraktar TB2 drones against Russian armored formations in Ukraine has been decisively established. This success has led to discussions among European nations regarding potential collaborative defense ventures with Turkey. If the European Union's proposed €800 billion rearmament strategy is enacted, Turkey is well positioned to secure a significant portion of these defense contracts. Furthermore, the establishment of logistics and maintenance facilities is being considered. A dedicated maintenance and repair line for Western military assets dispatched to Ukraine, situated within a NATO member state near the conflict zone, could markedly improve operational responsiveness. Given its strategic geographical location, Turkey emerges as a strong candidate for this critical role. Turkey's diplomatic capabilities are vital for the European Union, as it maintains unique lines of communication with Russia while actively supporting Ukraine. Historically, Ankara has played a mediating role, effectively facilitating negotiations on pivotal matters such as prisoner exchanges and grain export agreements. This dual capacity may position Turkey as an essential intermediary in European strategies aimed at sustaining regional stability. Should U.S. support for Ukraine diminish, it could present an opportunity for Turkey to amplify its regional influence. In this scenario, Ankara might seek negotiations with Russia, potentially allowing the European Union to advocate for regional stability achievable without American involvement. Turkey's assurances to Europe could be framed as a commitment to collaborative problem-solving amidst evolving geopolitical conditions. Maintaining maritime security in the Black Sea is of utmost importance. Without it, Ukraine's trade capabilities are significantly hindered. The European Union's proposal to incorporate Ukraine into its single market, encompassing sectors such as agricultural products, metal industries, and digital services, depends on ensuring open shipping routes through the Black Sea. Turkey wields substantial control over these maritime pathways, rendering its cooperation indispensable. Ongoing internal European diplomatic discussions frequently raise the critical query: how can we achieve full integration of Ukraine without Turkey's support in the Black Sea? The prevailing consensus underscores the necessity of Ankara's involvement for the success of this strategic initiative. The strategic implications are clear. Turkey's involvement is essential to the success of the integration plan, as its absence would grant Russia a significant advantage in the Black Sea theater. Turkey's interests are multifaceted, encompassing negotiations with Russia on Syria, maritime territorial claims in the eastern Mediterranean, and security operations in northern Iraq. This intricate web of relationships positions Turkey as a critical player in a complex geopolitical environment. Turkey's strategic position enables it to leverage its cooperation with European nations to enhance its influence. Despite criticisms from European leaders, the necessity for collaboration regarding Ukraine highlights a mutual dependency. Turkey is poised to use this situation to strengthen its negotiating position, arguing that its essential role in addressing the Ukraine crisis warrants equivalent concessions from the European Union. Ultimately, Turkey's engagement is vital for countering Russian initiatives in the region and promoting stability in the geopolitical context of the conflict. Turkey's military capabilities within NATO, alongside its strategic control over the Straits and the Black Sea, represent crucial considerations for European Union leadership. This reality has prompted European Commission representatives, including Ursula von der Leyen, to declare that the effectiveness of the European defense offensive would be significantly undermined without Turkey's active engagement. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has emphasized the potential for collaboration with Turkey, stating, "We can manage this together with Turkey." Ankara's military contributions provide Europe with valuable strategic options, particularly in the event of a U.S. military drawdown. The initial mobilization efforts, spearheaded by the United Kingdom and France, have generated interest from over 20 nations willing to form a coalition aimed at supporting Ukraine. While full troop deployments may not be universal, numerous European and Commonwealth nations are anticipated to offer essential support. This support is expected to encompass both military and financial dimensions, as outlined in the comprehensive plan proposed by the UK and France. Prime Minister Starmer introduced this initiative at a summit with 18 European and Canadian leaders, focusing on establishing a ceasefire in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. During a visit to a defense firm in Merseyside, Starmer cautioned against the notion that inaction is the only viable path while awaiting a diplomatic resolution, as asserted by U.S. President Donald Trump. Starmer stressed the critical need to proactively bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities, asserting that any prospective agreement must be underpinned by robust defense measures. He underscored the importance of aligning defense strategies with the United States, emphasizing that the long-standing collaboration with U.S. and European allies has been essential for maintaining stability over the past 80 years. Military officials from the 20-nation coalition supporting Ukraine are convening to discuss the implementation of security guarantees that would follow any potential peace agreement. Russian officials have displayed skepticism towards these developments, but view the coalition initiative favorably. The UK and France, in collaboration with their Western allies, have proposed a comprehensive one-month ceasefire targeting air, sea, and energy infrastructure. However, this proposal has been categorically rejected by Russian authorities. Russia's rejection of peace talks aligns with its historical posture. The Kremlin likely perceives the European Union's active role in negotiations as a direct challenge to its regional influence. President Vladimir Putin appears to recognize his diminished leverage over EU leaders, opting instead to focus on influencing United States policies. Historically, Russia has utilized strategies aimed at exerting pressure on U.S. interests to regain its footing. The European Union has reiterated its commitment to sustained military aid for Ukraine within the framework of the coalition. Recently, the United Kingdom has formalized a substantial £1.6 billion missile procurement agreement with Ukraine. complemented by a contract with the British-American defense firm Anduril. This partnership is set to deliver advanced unmanned aerial systems, specifically the Altius 600M and Altius 700M, which are designed for reconnaissance missions prior to engagement, thereby significantly enhancing operational capabilities in the Black Sea region. Furthermore, the UK government has authorized a $2.8 billion military aid package, funded by frozen Russian assets, reinforcing its commitment to Ukraine's defense capabilities. An initial transfer of £752 million has already been dispatched from an extraordinary revenue acceleration loan. The UK's contribution of $50 billion to the G7 initiative serves as a strategic effort to strengthen Ukraine's military infrastructure, which is crucial to the national security transformation plan. To date, the UK has allocated an estimated $12.8 billion to Ukraine, with $7.8 billion specifically designated for direct military assistance. The allocated resources also include $5 billion earmarked for non-military financial aid and humanitarian support. The European Union has proposed a significant fund, potentially reaching $800 billion, to further bolster Ukraine. Additionally, international support is reflected in Norway's commitment of $3.35 billion in aid, a figure that remains lower than those of its Scandinavian counterparts, Denmark and Sweden. Nonetheless, Norway's government is prepared to enhance its contributions by leveraging one of the largest sovereign wealth funds globally, amounting to $1.7 trillion. Germany, France, and Sweden have significantly enhanced Ukraine's military capabilities, working in concert to address the resurgence of Russian military aggression. This unified support from EU member states and allied nations is crucial to countering the multifaceted strategic threat posed by Russia. A Russian victory in Ukraine would exacerbate security pressures on NATO member states, compelling an urgent re-evaluation of military preparedness and alliance cohesion. Current assessments indicate that despite the financial challenges associated with prolonged conflict, Russia's armed forces have not only retained their operational levels, but have also developed greater combat experience compared to NATO forces. This evolution presents a significant challenge to collective security frameworks and necessitates a reassessment of deterrent strategies among NATO allies to effectively counter potential Russian aggressions. The ramifications are substantial as the European Union and allied nations strive to avert a Russian victory, which would fundamentally disrupt the existing security architecture in Europe. The consequences of such an event would extend beyond immediate military implications, potentially redefining alliances and altering defense postures throughout the continent. The potential reduction of Ukrainian territory carries profound implications for military strategy and international stability, particularly regarding the precedent it sets for territorial annexation in post-World War II Europe. Prior to 2014, Russia formally recognized Ukraine's borders as delineated in bilateral treaties, such as the Russia-Ukraine Treaty of January 28, 2000, and 2003, which were aligned with the international order established by the World War II Allied powers, including the Soviet Union and China. Russia's unlawful annexation of Crimea in 2014 represented a critical inflection point in this framework, garnering minimal international legitimacy outside of Russia and a select few nations. Currently, Russia asserts claims over approximately 20% of Ukrainian territory as part of its constitutional framework, despite lacking actual control over significant areas. The ongoing failure of Russian forces to achieve their strategic objectives in Ukraine is likely to constrain their military engagement capacity with European nations and diminish their global force projection capabilities. Moscow's difficulties in sustaining its influence in Syria can be partly attributed to the operational demands imposed by its campaign in Ukraine. This situation also has implications for the broader strategic rivalry involving the United States and China. The importance of the Indo-Pacific theater and the prevailing American consensus on China policy underscore that the outcome in Ukraine is of significant interest to U.S. strategic objectives. A Russian victory could set a concerning precedent that China might attempt to emulate regarding Taiwan. Conversely, a Russian defeat could lead China to adopt a more strategic and cautious approach to its regional ambitions. The potential for a Russian victory poses significant strategic challenges, particularly in relation to China's expanding influence and the deepening partnership between Moscow and Beijing. This dynamic underscores the complex stakes involved in the conflict, which may lead to pivotal geopolitical shifts, including the risk of nuclear proliferation in nations like Iran and South Korea, as well as the potential destabilization of regimes such as Syria. These factors complicate the analysis of the ongoing conflict and the uncertain prospects for any negotiated resolutions under U.S. leadership, as well as the ambiguous role of the U.S. as a defense guarantor in Europe. The evolving dynamics of the war introduce both quantifiable and qualitative risks, necessitating a comprehensive examination of military strategies and defense capabilities available to European nations in light of these multifaceted challenges. To secure a decisive military outcome and effectively mitigate the threat posed by Russian forces, U.S. involvement is essential. Should the current administration persist in limiting new aid requests, Ukraine may find it increasingly difficult to sustain its operational effectiveness in the theater of conflict. Conversely, if Ukraine's Western allies maintain current levels of arms and ammunition support while enforcing strict usage protocols, the military landscape may become more favorable. This is particularly pertinent if additional missile defense systems are provided swiftly and in adequate numbers. The effectiveness of these defense systems will be critical during anticipated aerial assaults. The decisions from Washington regarding military support remain pending. A significant consideration is Ukraine's aspiration for NATO membership. The U.S. has made its position clear. It opposes Ukraine's accession to the alliance. In contrast, Ukraine is actively seeking the protective assurances provided by NATO's Article 5 guarantee principle, which obligates member states to collective defense. Regardless of the conflict's outcome in Ukraine, this situation does not fundamentally challenge the credibility of Article 5. Ukraine is not a NATO member, and the precedent established by the 2014 annexation of Crimea has not incentivized Russia to test the alliance's resolve. Analysts are increasingly questioning NATO's readiness to defend critical locations such as Narva, situated approximately 102 kilometers from St. Petersburg. Additionally, the previous administration's reluctance to solidify alliances raises concerns about the reliability of U.S. defense commitments. It remains uncertain whether Ukraine's potential NATO membership would effectively deter Russian aggression. A Russian leadership that views its military capabilities as superior may persist in targeting smaller, more vulnerable nations. For instance, the seizure of Lithuania to establish a land corridor between mainland Russia and the Baltic exclave of Kaliningrad could be a plausible military operation, despite the presence of a German Bundeswehr brigade in the region. Assessing NATO's strategic posture, Russian President Vladimir Putin could prioritize Moldova, where extensive Russian influence persists since the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Key territorial objectives may include Gagauzia and Transnistria, potentially serving as leverage for a post-conflict Ukrainian leadership. Such moves could compel Romania, an integral NATO and EU member, to navigate a complex choice between opposing Russian advances and aligning with the more accommodating approach of Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. In this context, Russia might leverage territorial concessions to Hungary, potentially targeting the Carpathian region of a subdued Ukraine. This strategy risks complicating Romania's invocation of Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, which emphasizes collective defense. The strategic value of territory in this scenario is critical, achievable through both direct military actions and influence operations within the gray zone. The European Union is actively countering these threats, exemplified by the establishment of a 20-country coalition to bolster support for Ukraine as a preliminary measure. The efficacy of military coalitions significantly enhances operational capabilities and reinforces strategic deterrence against potential Russian aggression. Turkey's role within NATO and the European Union is vital in shaping comprehensive defense strategies. The dynamics among pivotal actors, London, Brussels, Paris, Ankara, and Washington, will critically influence the trajectory of military collaboration. A pressing concern is the sustainability of European defense mechanisms without Turkey's strategic assets and geographic positioning, creating a notable vulnerability in Europe's security framework moving forward. Thank you for your attention.